I think the Stan Dann is the artist. He's passed away. He was a mid-century modern artist, and it's wood relief. And he would draw out these he has small sketches, and then he'd draw it out full size, cut them out, and then shape each piece and put it back together like a puzzle. And we have a few of his pieces. I helped him learn how to use a computer back in the day. He was in his 70s.
Oh, that's awesome. A woman in her 80s won an award for Best App. She couldn't get anyone to code it for her, so she learned how to code.
That's
then
awesome.
built an app, and it won awards. It was actually awesome. I was like, you're never too old.
You're never too old. And I taught him and his wife how to use the computer and help them order the computer. It was like an eMac at the time, you know, those big computers.
I wanted to talk about the importance of taste in the AI future. Like, it's been not regarded as very important, but yeah. Anyway, I would like to talk about taste, how that's really going to affect this next year of AI. And maybe we can get into careers, we can get into where the opportunities are in AI, all around the advantages of being a designer with taste.
Hey, welcome to Cocoy.ai, where we talk about career advice, creative outlet making, money, monetization, growth mindset, and the future to help guide creative folks through leadership, tech, and finding what makes them happiest in life. Welcome, everyone, to Cocoy.ai. This is a great day. We are talking to Silke. She is a formidable design leader. She is a tastemaker. I have known her for years. We met each other in a women's leadership circle led by Mia Bloom, and we have kept in touch ever since and have this strong passion to be on the edge of technology and design, and how do we make that work? So Silke, I wanted to just thank you for being on the show, and I'm appreciative for all of your guidance over these years.
Thanks for inviting me. This is just going to be a fun talk. I think we've both got a lot of similar interests, and we're both designers, we're both interested in AI, and we can sort of start. I'd love to talk about what we've learned.
Yes. So Silke, I think we have started the conversation on tastemakers, and why is that so important in this upcoming year when we look at AI? How does that fit together?
Yeah, it's a great question. We've considered taste as not that important. And Rick Rubin put out a book recently that's called The Creative Act. And in it, you know, he famously also was interviewed saying, I have no skills, but I know what I like and I don't like. And he has shaped bands and made them famous, like Public Enemy is one that he's really well known for. But being able to know what is good and what's not is a skill that takes a long time, and it's rare, and it takes actual training. So as we're entering this era of AI, where art is generated, and you can iterate on text prompts and generate images, and now 5 days ago, Sorta was released by OpenAI, which now makes videos beautifully. These tools are just going to get better. So where does that leave us as designers? And it's kind of shifting us from like being skill constrained to being imagination constrained. And it's our imagination that is what is going to propel people. So what does that mean? That scares a lot of people, thinking, but my skills don't matter anymore. I think they really do. What we learn by training ourselves to be good designers, good artists, good cinematographers, good musicians, is developing knowing what's good and how to create it. So taste is really valuable. And I think we might say that creating an image is going to be democratized in the future. But we could also, and there's this tension of skills versus taste, but it also raises the ceiling of what we as designers need to produce. I think it's really interesting to see that companies that are investing in design are getting quality products, where we're at this phase where they're saying, do we need design since we can generate, and AI designs being improved, and UIs will be able to be created using a text prompt, and anyone can do it, the democratization of that. But it's when companies and startups invest in designers that you get a product that stands out and is unique.
Yes.
So these tools kind of take everything, large language models take all this information, put it together in one chunk, and what comes out is very similar. And it takes somebody with taste and design skill, a designer, product designer that can understand the business and all the nuances of person's society and people's feelings at the moment culturally, and understanding what looks good and appeals to you emotionally is a really difficult skill. And it's the companies that understand the value of that and empower that into the AI generative production space that we're heading into that will actually be the most successful. So I think designers are extremely valuable now and in the future.
Not only for designers, I think for all industries, being that professional and knowing what good is the thing that will set apart the outcome. So I think of this meme, I don't know if you've seen it, where it's a drawing of a horse. And there's this kind of crappy drawing of a horse all the way to this full rendering of a horse. I think from a design eye, a lot of the AI generated art looks like that crappy horse. Maybe it's not exactly the crappy horse, but it is definitely not the fully rendered outcome. And I feel like this is not just design, it's like people that code also would know that's crappy code. That is not going to work. This is unsafe, or whatever the thing is. And I think that'll be the same for all of the different industries. And how do we not lose sight of that? The taste is what makes it sets you apart.
I agree. I totally agree with that. I think good designers UI designers love to work really closely with design engineers, because the combination of those skills means they sort of bring each other up to do better work. And I think with coders, being able to go through and check the code and see what's not working well and know how to enhance it and make it have taste that appeals to somebody's emotion as well as their task. I mean, that is not a skill you can put aside to AI. It's something that you need people for.
That collaboration is so important.
Yeah.
Actually, the person that brought over the Apple Vision is a UX engineer that I used to work with very closely. I love that collaboration, and I think that what business leaders need to understand is it's not necessarily to produce this production ready code. It's how do we make this experience? Let's make an innovative experience that we can test before we make it into production code. It's not just take this thing and now it's going to be ready for prime time. It's how do we iterate in a way that is more realistic? This is something where I've always championed having UX engineers work with designers very closely, because you want to innovate, and those skill sets together, you need them in order to make something that's possible.
I totally agree. When you have these two skill sets together, and that's a little bit what AI can do, is can help me code a little bit. I'm a pretty shit coder. I can also help my friend design iterate on a UI, and we can collaborate and go, this is what I mean. I can't describe it in words, but this is what I mean visually. And I'm like, this is what I meant, when I was trying to get it to do this type of animation. Does that make sense? We can collaborate and see new possibilities. Yeah, I think so. You designers and engineers, especially front-end, not especially, but working with designers and front-end engineers, this uniqueness that we can create that's not created by anyone particularly, it's by people who can see and find that uniqueness. That is what's really valuable. And we see good UIs I think this year we're going to see the LLMs being designed with really amazing UI innovations where they don't care too much about how great the technology is, but really how are people going to use them. And a company I'm thinking of right now is called Visual Electric. So they're doing, it's a simple tool that helps you generate an image. But what's unique about them is that they've added their style to it. So when you render an image, they do a lot of work in the background that what prompt you put in is helped with a whole lot of extra prompts. And they're very style opinionated, and it brings an image that looks good straight away because they've got an opinion about what looks good. And then so that you, as a visual designer, need to prompt and use words less. And then they separate the prompting to get in a big step in the direction I want, a dog jumping in the sky, to then the style. Like then you can tweak with the style, and they've preset lots of styles based on, again, lots of work trying to develop styles using AI that generate good outcomes. And that is different from like Midjourney, which doesn't do that as much. And you can create your own style. Like you can dump a whole lot of mood board images and say, create this style, and then use that style to generate more images. So you can see like kind of becoming a little bit like a style maker or a taste maker.
Is it more for visual, like more image-based generative AI, or is it for UI specifically?
This is just for image.
Okay.
There is a really interesting tool being developed for UI layout by a company called Galileo AI, and they're about to release. They've been testing a private beta for the last couple of years, and they're about to release their public beta. So watch out for that. I think it's going to be released next week.
Oh, cool.
Yeah.
I think there was one, actually Angel connected me with Recraft. Did she reach out to you too? That was really interesting to have a vector-based AI engine that has some preconceived styles for those vectors. What do you think about tools like that?
I mean, it's very simple. It's still got a long way to go. But something I was thinking about when I was pitching a startup idea for a similar tool was that how can we empower just individual creators to get their point of view across, or the way they tell stories? And this is for writers as well. And so I really like the direction they're heading is like you can create your own style, and maybe one day there'll be a marketplace. Like this is me, this is my style that I've generated that's unique because I've created it. I've used AI, I've used my own drawings, whatever. Like I've got this large amount of data set and I've created my own style. You can't take it because it's an algorithm, but you can apply it to these types of images and it will look like this. And then brands will want to do that as well. I mean, it would be really interesting if brands sort of let the style of Coca-Cola, let's just say Nike, out into the world. And people can experiment with the Nike style in anything. I mean, it's going to be brave for them because they might be wondering what people are going to prompt. But it also would be really cool, right?
I mean, that was one of the things that's really sparked my interest from the beginning of this AI, this particular wave of AI or fancy machine learning, was the idea that I could create my own digital twin, like something that me so specifically that I could prompt and have a little assistant, like have a little thing, or maybe many different little, I think now we call them agents to do the
big word right now. Yeah, that's really interesting you bring that up. Agents are controversial, add a lot of tension as well. People are sort of, is this a good thing or a bad thing? Is it, is my privacy being completely violated, or is it going to be all on my device and so no one can actually get it or get my preferences? But really, for the last 30 years of design, and I've designed for a while, the question comes up every 6 months: how do we help personalize this experience to help them get past all the complicated ways of developing something that I like, writing visual images or whatever? And agents are kind of that answer to that. And agents, I think, are here to stay in a big way. Agents can be information, like enterprises having their information knowledge base. It can be, there's my personal AI, which Inflection PI has developed one, which is really nice. Well, it's a nice UI as well. And you can create your own personal. There's several companies that are allowing you to create your own personal agents. It's a big business. I wonder if OpenAI, that's created their store for GPTs, which is like, I'm going to create an assistant for you, and then I'm going to eventually start making money from it. Is it a little bit, do you think it's a little bit like the Apple store when it began selling apps?
I do. And then, 20 years later, everybody complains about 30% of their income that has to go into Apple for subscriptions or whatnot. I do think it seems like it's leaning that direction. I don't know, the Gemini, what are they calling it? Advance? They keep changing names. Gemini Advance has, I don't rule out Google from this race of them creating their own store of ChatGPT is first to market, but I mean, you've been on this bleeding edge as like head of emerging design at Adobe. You see things like move so fast. Do you think that that this will come from a larger organization versus like these smaller startups that are popping up everywhere? What do you think would be, where should we look for technology? Do we even have technology that's going to last right now? Or are these all like scrapped in the next 2 years?
That's a really good question. It's interesting you brought up Google as well. So how I look at this stack layer is, first you've got the energy that, and there's controversy around the environment, but like massive amount of more energy for processing. Then there's a processing and that's needed to be done with these massive warehouses of computing systems. Then in that LLMs, like large language models, Midjourney that we've mentioned has one, OpenAI has one. There's going to be a lot of companies and more which have these large language models. So which ones are the best? It's going to be hard to tell, because I think we're going to get to the point where there's so much synthetic or fake generated content that the LLMs, large language models, are built on. It's going to be the ones that have proprietary information that I think will win out. And when I think about Google, or who has the most of their own personal information no one else is going to scrape, it's probably Google. It's they have massive amounts of data on YouTube, all emails and behaviors and documents, and they've got a massive repository. Maybe there's somebody else, but I don't know who that would be. Maybe in China, but like they're going to be able to just keep slowly improving beyond what people can currently do that are just investing large amounts of money. So it's whoever has the personal data or databases of massive amounts of data are going to sort of win, in my perspective. But then on top of the LLMs, you will have the applications, the UIs, the tools that we're going to be using every single day. And they're currently a lot of productivity enhancing tools. And then on top of that, it's the wrappers, or the people who use APIs from whole different places, from LLMs that provide them, from database of information, from this tool, and combine it and create like unique integrated products. So those two top layers are going to become more and more and more valuable. We've kind of built the LLMs and the data systems, and they'll just keep getting massive, but pretty much the same. And it's these two layers that I think us as designers are really needed, and us as coders and us as like any form of creativity, any form of development are going to be needed to really start shaping that, really understand, unlock where the potentials are, and work those, optimize workflows, build the UI, and that's going to make the difference of who wins.
The wrapper thing is very interesting, right? Like that's where I feel like there are certain publicly available GPTs on OpenAI that are tapping into some of the APIs that make those way more powerful or way more conscientious of what you're trying to ask it for.
Yeah.
Where, I guess, it's making me think of how much data is necessary for this. We were talking about all of the data that Google collects. Do you think that we ever own any of our own data? Or do you think that companies will continue to scrape and or we're just giving the data away because they're providing enough value for our lives? Like, do you think that I think I'm moving into the more ethical consciousness.
I hear two questions in that. Correct me if they're wrong. One is, by adding more data, we're going to get better outputs. And some people say not really anymore, because in fact, adding more can even make the outputs worse, they're saying, from a text-based perspective. And then as we have synthetic data, it just waters it down a little. From an ethical point of view, this is something that I think we're going to be dealing with for the next 5 years. I think enterprises are really slow to pick up on AI, even though they tend to be a bit behind anyway, but their biggest concern is data breaches and privacy, and using content that has not been approved, and they're really nervous about it. And that nervousness is a tension that's happening. And I think it will be lots of legal cases. There'll be companies that will say our data is clean, like Adobe does with their images. When they generate images on clean data, there will be several people are saying that what is generated will have to have an attached verification to it. We'll say it's been generated this way on this data. And until people are doing that, it won't become mainstream. I'm a bit skeptical. I think people will use it anyway. But all these things need to be worked out. And then my own privacy settings. How do I get those privacy settings? Some people think agents are it, where I can go and adjust what my agent or my personal bot can give out, and I can see vice versa. And there's all these knobs that I am in control of. And I think it's really important that I as a consumer have control. But whether that happens, we have to see. And this is all that's going to be worked out in the next 5 years. My biggest concern is actually not so much those things. I believe they'll be worked out. My concern is how people going to advertise their products. How is if marketing is going to start hacking into this someone said it the right way, abstracted data. So open chat, GTP, Gemini, everyone else summarizes lots of text. I really love this browser called Arc browser. It has lots of AI features. You can roll over a link and it will summarize the website for you. It's sort of abstracting this information. So you no longer have marketers that can give you a spin. It's actually, this is what the product is. You no longer have lots of ads. You no longer get directed directly to that company that can then try to get you in. It's all sort of abstracted on this layer of information that you search and find through LLMs. And how marketers going to get into that abstraction of all that data, which is pretty much what we'll end up using. They're our agent. They're the data in our agents. And I don't know how that's going to roll out.
Okay. Do you think that that kind of rolling over and seeing the tabs can be an LLM, but like a visual version? Like, will you be able to see like more of a summary of the image of what that might be or how it might feel? Like my visual thinking brain
It's
wants to
interesting.
not only read everything, I want to see something.
Mm.
Do you see a path where that would be I don't know, practical to see an image with the summary?
So we have a personalized image generator to describe information.
Yeah.
Definitely, I can see that I can see that coming. What are some use cases you can think of? When would I want an image generator to tell me about information?
Well, to your point, like, is it something that a marketer or a brand designer can push into one of those experiences? They know that you're tapping into this tool. Can they utilize, well, back in the olden days, we'd use like all the, I forgot, what is it called? ASCII, where you make an image with just
Oh,
the
asking
text.
flowers and stuff.
Yeah, like, is that something that, like, is there some iteration of it where it comes back an image made out of all of the
This is
letters?
this is my age, but I remember going on a date in my early 20s because someone sent me an ASCII rose. Um,
Oh,
um, I think we're already seeing that actually,
yeah.
because you could take this podcast and you could make us both be speaking French, like
Right.
just with an AI. You could say, then going a step further with images, you could say, behind us, I want you to show the flag of the country of the person's in, and then that's personalizing it. And then you can think of advertisers of like, we want to promote this, frozen meal that you can buy in grocery stores all around the world. Well, can you put like Paris behind me or the Sydney Harbour Bridge? Or like, can it be personalized in a way? Or I know I really like this fashion label, put them in behind. Like, can it be images be personalized by marketers? I mean, that seems something that they would love to do.
Mm-hmm.
That would be very, very, personalized targeting.
Yeah.
Whether that's good or not.
I don't know. I don't have that answer.
Yeah.
In ideas of where it could go, but I don't know if it's good for people. I mean, that's a question.
Mm.
What is your thoughts on whether or not all of these more fancy machine learning or AI, do you think it'll ultimately be good for humanity?
I don't have an answer, but I'm just going to give you a few thoughts because it's kind of the question a little bit about who you are as a person. How you tend to see the dystopian or the utopian, the positive side of life, a cup half full, cup half empty. I mean, AI is a tool. It does like, what do you believe about humanity? There's a little bit of those big questions that are more of a personal take. When I saw the Vision Pro, and I worked in AR for 10 years, so I'm really familiar with that industry and VR as well, but mainly AR. My thought was, is this going to create even more isolation? Because this phone has created a whole lot of social, mental issues. It's also connected us as well. We don't acknowledge that. Like, I do talk to more people and I feel connected with people that aren't as local to me, but it's also isolated and caused problems in the younger generation. So I was thinking about the next generation, as if they're going to be wearing these goggles, is that going to be even worse for them? Is that going to isolate them even more and cause even more issues? I think we need to be making sure that doesn't happen as designers by building in tools that encourage socialization with real people. designers can stand up, but anyone can stand up and say, we need these safeguards. And now is a time where people are talking about it and trying to put these safeguards in place around personalization and data IP control again. But also, what about the future generations? How is it going to affect society as a whole? And I think we should be asking ourselves that question pretty much from now on with every product that we build. Let's think about this in future generations in 10 years' time. What's the worst that can happen? Can we prevent that now from that happening in the future? And what are the good outcomes we want? Can we ensure that they come out of this product? And that's actually a design methodology that exists today.
I think that's a great segue to my next question about what can emerging designers or design leaders learn, or what key skills should they be focused on in this new world? Like, are there tangible skills? Can you teach taste?
You can definitely teach taste. And I was trying to think about how do we help designers that are coming up in this next generation develop taste in this. there's I think we first need to realize how important taste is, because it's kind of like, oh, you've got good taste, and it's been a little bit considered not important. But good taste is developed over time. So I would really encourage designers to do two things. Look at some old masters. Find some people who've done amazing work before in whatever your profession is that really inspire you, and consider them your mentors. Really study them, understand their methodologies, their manifestos, their values, their principles, and see if you can take those across to today, because they're the taste makers, proven taste makers. So learn from them. And also then take time every day from now, like half an hour, just read about what's happening, test all the tools that are coming out. Don't avoid it because you think it's going to take my job or it's scary. If you embrace these new tools, and in fact, when I talk to designers, most designers are like, yes, of course I want to. Of course I'm investing. This is something I really want to try. The people are scared are more the people who are concerned about the legal issues behind it. Learn how you can start using these AI tools in your current work processes. What is your workflow? How can you improve it with AI products? Can you get to an idea faster, which is currently the value of AI tools, writing or visual, and iterate so that you can expand? Can you use it to expand your ideas and like have more ideas, so in the end you come up with a better design? I mean, we now have the ability to do a lot more in a much shorter time. So we kind of become curators of our own style, and having to look at lots of images and having to think, oh yeah, I'm going to pick that one, develops your taste. You start to learn. And then there's a formal studies that you can do online, which is composition and color theory and all those things, typography. I recommend still studying all of those things as well as a designer. But I can also see some tools that are going to help with doing some design critiques, AI tools that will do some design critiques. They're pretty shit right now, even though some people are saying they're good, they're not. They give false information often that something's good, it's not, but it will get better. And I think Galileo is gone and to a lot of effort to like look at what are all the UI rules and patterns and make recommendations on them. So they're like putting good quality data into their systems, and it's these things that will help as well develop your taste. Getting critiques.
That's awesome. That there's I didn't know that they were creating a critique tool, but
I haven't used the product. I don't know if it's going to be in the first beta release that comes out, but they definitely have to know what is good to release a product, to show what is good. Then I think they might be adding features that give you feedback in written form or verbal.
So what are you most excited about?
Seeing how people are going to be able to express themselves more. I think it's really important that we keep developing our voice and our language so we don't have more polarization and we have society flourishing and new business ideas innovating and us thinking about the consequences of this. So I think I'm excited to just see a lot more stuff out there. Like, it's probably going to be a lot of it really bad, but just over time, this is the tech wave. We've seen it before. We end up finding really good, useful tools by just putting lots of stuff out, even if you're a bit embarrassed. So I want to see more people do more work with AI. Yeah.
I feel like that's innovation, right? You have to allow for the crappy ideas so that you can have the really good ones that are actually going to move the needle, and just keep putting it out. What should everyone be reading or watching?
Yeah, there's a few good sources of information for this. So Mia Bloom, who you've already mentioned, we're mutual friends, but I really admire her. She's doing a great job. She's focusing on design with AI, and that's actually the name of her Substack. So go to Substack, search for design with AI, and find Mia Bloom, BLUME. Then also there's something I listen to daily. It's just a 5-minute podcast called The AI Breakdown, which is really good. They're the two I would go to. There are little courses you can do online. They're okay. They're getting better. There's lots of great books about design, but really understanding people, experimenting is the best way to learn. Find a mentor, an old master or somebody you admire, and use them as well.
And who should I interview next?
I think you should interview Linus Lee, who's head of AI for Notion. And Notion is a tool, you probably know what Notion is. He is doing is really having to develop AI for every use case, like, because you can use Notion for anything. Designing, like, it's really system design, and it's really hard. How do you design something that everyone's going to understand and use and find useful? So I think he would be a great person to interview.
Oh, that's awesome. Is that someone you know?
Yeah, he's here in New York.
Would you mind connecting?
Yeah, sure.
I wanted to just appreciate you and thank you for giving your time to this. This has been an awesome conversation, as always. I'm so excited to be able to share this with the world.
It's great to chat with you. Thank you for inviting me.
Awesome.
Bye.